Hey guys, Scratch, maze game. We're going to make it amazing. Today, what we're going to be doing is scoreboard and timer, right? So in another video, we looked at adding a scoreboard, mistake counter, and in this video, we're going to look at adding a timer, right? So the minute the game starts, the minute you start in that maze, time is counting up, right? So you want to be able to go through that maze as quickly as possible, as few mistakes as possible. That's obviously kind of the goals that we'd be shooting at in this particular situation. So we're going to add a timer to our maze game. That's what we're going to look at here. And again, we're going to use that new tool, the variable, to make that happen. So if we go to Scratch, if we're not logged in, again, get in touch with Mr. Kizuka or me. We'll help you get to there. Once you are logged in, you're going to My Stuff. So click on that folder button. And once you're in that folder button, here's our maze game. Click on that See Inside button to get right into our game. Now, this code is going to have to go on our player sprite. We could, in theory, at least put it in a few different places, especially if we write some other variables. But the simplest place to put this is probably going to be in our player sprite. So I'm going to click on my player sprite to bring up that player's code. And then the first thing I want to think about is when should I make this timer start? So what event should I make the timer reliant upon? And if you think about it, if you start the timer as soon as the flag is clicked, that's not really good, because when we click this flag, we go to the start screen. So we'd just be like sitting here on our start screen and the timer's going. That's not fair, right? We want to make sure that the timer starts when we start into the maze game, right? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in an event, and we're going to do win backdrop switches to. Okay. Now, if you're looking at this, we're going to bring in a win backdrop switches to, and we've already got that maze level 1. This is going to be another win backdrop switches to maze level 1. So we could, in theory, at least put this code in this other event. The reason we're not going to do that is because we basically got parallel events happening at the same time. Parallel. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to control. And instead of a forever loop, what we want here is a repeat until loop, right? Which is this one. And this is going to repeat over and over again until something happens. And the thing we need to think about is what happens. Well, we want to repeat the counting of the timer, counting up until we get to the point where our player sprite touches that goal sprite, right? So when touching the goal sprite is when we're going to end this loop, right? That's when we're going to stop doing the counting of the timer. All right, so first thing we need to do is go back to variables. Once we set this up, go to variables, and we're going to make a variable, okay? And the variable we're going to make, we're going to name this variable timer, okay? And leave it for all sprites. That's fine. Just click OK, and you can see we've got a variable made here that's called timer. We're in good shape. Right? And you can see our timer is displayed right now. That's a good thing too, because that gives us that count up. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in a change mistakes by, well, change, we're going to make it not mistakes. We're going to make that change timer by, and we're going to change that 1 to 0.1. We're going to make it 1/10, okay? And we're going to bring in control, and we're going to bring in a wait block. We'll put that wait block right ahead of that change timer by. We're going to change this wait to 0.1 seconds. So every 0.1 seconds, we're going to wait 0.1 seconds and then change timer by 0.1. And then we're going to go back and wait 0.1 and change timer by 0.1. So every time we go 1/10 of a second, it's going to count 1/10 of a second. And that way, we're going to get a timer that gives us 1/10 of a second every time that it goes through that loop. That's what's going to happen. When we end up touching the goal sprite, our timer will stop, and we'll get that time. We'll be able to see how long it took us to get through that maze. So this code is great. There's one big problem with it. What happens if I'm playing this game the second time? Because if you think about it, right now, we've never told our timer to go to 0. Right now, our timer is at 0, right? But if I go through that game once and I want to play it again to see if I can get a faster time, I'm not going to be able to, because my timer won't return back to 0. So a real important code that I have to include is a set timer to 0, right? So I'm going to bring in a set mistakes to 0, and instead of mistakes, I'm going to make that say timer, so that my timer goes to 0 in the beginning of the game. So let's take a look, see what happens. Here's my flag. You can see timer's at 0, mistakes at 0. If I click start game, look at that. The timer's already counting, right? I've got 1 sec. Oh, look at that. I got a boo-boo. A lot of pressure here. I made it through, and there's a shortcut. Don't tell anybody. Oh, no, I ran into the wall again. Oh, so many walls, so many walls. Cheat code. Okay, there we go. Slow down a little bit. Oh, no, no! There's got to be a way around this. Here we go. Careful, careful, careful. There we go. Let's see. Now, so I'm at 27 seconds. Look at that, the timer stops. I get 28.5 seconds. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And let's see, we've got some more code to write. We can still see, so there's some problems here. Restart button doesn't do anything, but if I click that flag, look at that, my timer goes back to 0. Mistakes go back to 0. So I've reset my variables. I've reset my scoreboard, my timer, and I'm ready to go. That's it for the scoreboard. That's it for the timer. We've got both of those written. Some pretty simple code, but some pretty fundamentally important stuff, including the first times we're messing with variables. So good stuff. I can't wait to see the code you've written. I can't wait to see the way you've customized it and made it unique and impressive in its own way. That's it for today. We'll see you soon.